Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast, where I, your host, Xavier Cruz, a lifelong wrestling fan, will take a lifelong friend through the action, the joys, and the drama of the world of professional wrestling. My co-host, Kelsey Silva, has been bitten by the wrestling bug, and I want to invite you to join us as I take her through the moments that made me a fan. So if you're new to wrestling and would like to get brought up to speed, or a fan who would like to relive some classic matches, promos, and segments through fresh eyes, join us as we embark on a journey through the Attitude Era and beyond. Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the New to Wrestling podcast. This week, we watched the August 12th, 1996 edition of Monday Night Raw, and the match card is as follows. We had Farouk versus Skip of the Body Donnas. We had Savio Vega versus the re-debuting, or returning, I guess is the way we're going to do that, Crush. And we had DL Hopper and Who versus the Godwins. And then in the main event, we had Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels in a non-title match.
Just for funsies,
just to blow the roof off the joint. This is the final edition of Raw before the 1996 edition of SummerSlam. So this one kind of had a lot going on in one episode and kind of left us with a few more questions than answers, which is typically how it goes when there's going to be a pay-per-view coming around the corner. Right from the jump, we had Farouk versus Skip of the Body Donnas. Farouk is, of course, accompanied by Sunny, who decided to wear a wedding sundress situation today.
It was odd.
And the point of this match was really just to kind of, have Farouk dominate and just kind of come out so that everybody can kind of get acquainted with him and kind of his style and what he does in the ring. So we didn't see a whole lot of like offense from Skip, nothing of like note really. And
I didn't even realize it was him until there was the pan out of his outfit, and I was like, "Oh, okay,
right,
okay, got it."
Skip of Skip and Zip, right? And we got you kind of got to see like firsthand Jerry Lawler really in his how do I even describe that? He really showed his true colors this evening, and that is more in line with Jerry the King Lawler as he is than probably anything else. We got an announcement of the Bikini Beach Blast Off, which is essentially just like a beauty pageant, but just the bikini portion. Like
it's so funny because like there's been like little throughout what we've been watching, there's been like little just a little sprinkling of sexism through the whole thing, and then today it was like they just cranked it to 100. Like it went from just like, wow, she's so and it was like, it's always a little weird, but then it went from like 0 to 100 real freaking quick. Like suddenly we're doing Bikini Beach Blast Off, the girlies are competing for who looks the best. Like it was just, and Jerry the King Lawler literally said like, I would have a very meaningful one night stand with he said many things, but that was one that I wrote down.
I also
meaningful
wrote
one
that
night
down.
stand.
Yes, because it was just like,
what does that mean?
You just have to like just take a deep breath and just go with it, and you're just like, okay, sir, you're not like this woman's like senior or anything. Like it's not weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, but that's honestly and like unfortunately kind of the way it goes for the next like couple years as far as like the women are concerned.
I guess like the dial was like, I'm assuming the dial was like super turned up because they're advertising the Bikini Beach Blast Off, so they're like, look how sexy like everybody is, and I was just like, what is happening right now?
Right. So like, yes, exactly, because it is literally like essentially what's going to be the pre-show of SummerSlam is going to be that little moment, apparently. Moving on. But speaking of Jerry the King Lawler, it was announced that finally we are going to see Jake the Snake Roberts versus Jerry the King Lawler in an actual match.
Thank God.
This has been a long time coming. Jerry the King Lawler has been absolutely talking that smack for the entirety of the show.
For the past Forever.
And we are finally gonna see that kind of go off. We did get a phone call from Jake the Snake, and he was just kind of came on and was livid. He was like,
But I mean, it's
I
about
he's
time.
like, every man has its limits. You have reached mine. Like, I'm coming for you. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
done. And then, of course, Jerry the King Lawler just like brushed it off. It's just like, I'm not gonna lose to a drunk and blah 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 blah. And you're like,
The huge.
the huge. I just want to see them actually fight at this point.
Me
Because
too.
like
Yeah.
Gary has been just brutal for weeks and weeks, and we just haven't seen Jake because he's been injured. So like there's just been no, it's been very one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
There has been no reciprocation on the other end. So I'm hoping that he actually does pull out like the snake when he did
Wait,
you
he
know?
has a snake? Wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Wait a
Wait a
minute.
minute. What?
So he is
There's
called
a
Jake
snake
the Snake Roberts because he comes out with a snake in a bag that is like
in a
his.
bag?
Yeah, it's like a one of the bags you like catch snakes in, you know, like you see
Oh,
them
you
like
know, your
like on
run-of-the-mill snake catching bag.
I can only liken it to like what I've seen on like the Crocodile Hunter, like one of those kinds of like bags.
Oh my!
Oh yeah, he has a literal snake that he pulled.
It's. Is it
It,
his pet? Like,
I guess.
I need a backstory on the snake. I'll look it
Uh,
up. Don't worry, I'll look it up.
I don't know where him and the snake became one, but they
So
are they're a
he
unit now.
so he has like the alcoholic story, and he also has a snake backstory. I feel like
The
that's a
snake is
lot.
like, oh yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot for the image. Okay,
Mhm.
I
Oh,
did not know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay, I'll look
Well,
for that.
and that is my fault for having not explained that better to you.
No, I love. I honestly love that. I really. I couldn't. I didn't know why he was. I didn't know if it was he was the snake because of like he's like a backstabber. Like, oh, he's the snake.
Mm,
Like, you know what I mean? I didn't know it
right.
was because has a literal snake. Wow.
No,
Sometimes
literally
it do be that
because
literal.
he be handling snakes.
Yeah. When
Like
when you said I hope he whips out the snake, I was like, I don't think they can do that on television.
Nope.
Like, whoa, okay. But
Oh my
it's an
god.
actual snake. Okay. All right.
All right. So that's another one to look forward to on the like the SummerSlam card. And then the next match that we had Salvio Vega versus the, I guess, returning Crush, who turned out to be our mystery convict that we've been hearing about. And I also finally learned the name of the lawyer, Clarence Mason.
Thank you, because I didn't know either. I was like, that guy.
100%. Who was on commentary for this match, just which was basically turned into just like a weird bickering match between Mr. Mason and Mr. McMahon. Like they
Super
just
weird.
couldn't get over their animosity for each other long enough to actually like call the match.
Mm-hmm.
Couple notes on Crush raids. Interesting.
Great.
Well, because he's like another like 6'5" like giant of a man, and then he just has shoulder length braids, and you're just like, okay.
That's a choice.
And then he had the one of those like nose ring earring
Yeah.
combo
Mm-hmm.
situations, and I was like, okay, all right,
Okay.
very 300 of you. And he apparently was like, the backstory of him is he was like charged, or what was it?
He was
He said
charged but never convicted
that's the
on
one on
weapons.
drugs and weapons charges. Very
Heard.
vague. They never go into specifics. And he also wore pirate boots the whole time.
Loved the boot. Here for the boots. You know I am.
I was not expecting the thigh high, like little side buckle moment on this like gigantic man, but I was like, go
It was
for it.
giving Scalawag.
It was giving something. That's for sure.
Something we're unsure, but we're gonna see how it goes.
We had another Jerry the King Lawler quote during this match. Or at least
Oh,
I wrote one down. Do you have one?
was it he'll show up with more witnesses than Jehovah?
Oh yes, he'll show up to court with more witnesses than Jehovah.
Was that not the one you wrote?
That's the one I wrote. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, was there another I missed? Because I thought that was peak.
That was, yeah, it was pretty top tier. So we go through the match. Crush picks up the victory because he's debuting, or returning. I have no recollection of who Crush was before this iteration. So I don't know really what the difference is. Vince McMahon was going on and on about like, he's so different, like he's different. And I
Yeah,
was
I'm coming back
like,
here all different.
it's just like, you've changed. Like that was the energy that I got. And I was
Like
just like,
really upset.
right. And I was just like, well, clearly he's a felon now. So like
That changes people, Vince.
100%. We're gonna see more of Crush. He tends to pick up the kind of, like the bodyguard muscle kind
Mm,
of
roll.
a group. So we'll see more of him. And then we get a vignette of
Oh,
Mankind and the Undertaker,
mwah.
which just played like a movie trailer for the Boiler Room Brawl. That, I'm telling you, that match is so good. I cannot wait for us to watch that.
I can't wait. I mean, I literally wrote the promo for Boiler Room Brawl was flawless. God bless. Like seriously, like because it wasn't overdone, but they had at one point like the Undertaker laying punches on Mankind, and it was going to the beat of the music.
Oh
Like
yeah,
and I was like, this is top
top
tier.
tier.
Whoever
And
sound people who lined that up with the visuals, mwah, beautifully done. I loved
shout
it.
out to whoever edited that
Shout out
one.
to y'all. A plus.
And then we got a kind of like sit down interview with Ahmed Johnson, who
Mm,
has been injured, who I guess was injured last week, and apparently is far more serious. Because I remember when when Farouk first debuted, I mentioned to you that like he gets seriously injured here. I just
mm-hmm.
didn't really remember the how exactly it had played out. So essentially, during the attack from Farouk, he got his kidney ruptured. And he insisted on wrestling the following week, where he won a battle royal to win a number one contender spot. But during that match, he injured himself further. So when he, I guess, got back to the hotel he was like staying at, stuff just started going wrong. He goes to the hospital, has to have like emergency surgery, gives this kind of interview, and it's a little sad because
Very
like
sad.
he's like actually in this moment unsure if his like career is over. Because they're talking about like if it doesn't heal properly, they're gonna remove his kidney. Like,
Which is not,
this is not nothing. Like
that's
you
not nothing. Like that's
kind of a necessary
insane.
organ.
Kind of important.
Yeah, it was pretty emotional, and I was like okay. I was like just not expecting it because like we've only really seen him just kind of kicking ass and taking names, you
Yeah,
know what
being
I
this like
mean?
humongous beast.
But
Like,
then you remember they're people. Like
yeah. And he was like just at his house in Texas. He was in a red bathrobe, like, and it wasn't weird. Like he was just, I was like, oh, he's so
right.
cozy at home. Like, I love
Right,
this.
100%.
And he seemed like very emotional at the end. And he
Right.
just kept saying, like, I literally don't know
Well,
like
because they
what
asked him, they
this
were
means.
like, what are you gonna do what are you gonna do if you can't wrestle anymore? He was like, I don't know. Like
He's like,
I like like, you know what I
beats me,
mean? So
babe. Like I
yeah, I was like, your guess is as good as mine. Like, I don't know.
yeah, it was
Um,
sad.
so we'll hopefully get updates on that. The following match was just a hot mess, really.
Hot
So we
mess.
had TL Hopper, the wrestling plumber, and his tag team partner, um,
I'm
who I
sorry.
had no idea that was an actual
Because I was
wrestler.
like, Xavier, who is this? And he goes, his name is Who. And I just was like, wait,
Of
what?
course it is. Yeah, because
Yeah,
like why
sure.
why wouldn't it be? And they were facing the Godwins. But this match was just all over the place from like the jump. One, because that is the strangest tag team I've ever seen.
Eh,
The wrestling plumber and
Who?
who. And who, by the way, the top half of him looks like a chicken that was like properly like roasted, and then his legs look like if someone had decided to just like boil the other half of the
The
chicken.
other, oh my God.
Like,
No seasoning.
no
Boiled
seasoning.
chicken. Top
Fluorescent.
crisp.
The man was wearing bright yellow, and his thighs almost took my eyes out. Like,
Yes, it was really confusing.
and
Really
then we
confusing.
and then to just add more, like, even more to the weird juxtaposition of madness that was happening. Like, we had Bob Backlund, who is a former like WWF champion, going absolutely buck wild on commentary. And when I say like buck wild, I mean literally saying anything but anything to do with wrestling or what was happening in the ring. The man was talking about like what schools and what they can teach and not teach in schools, and that he's an advocate for abstinence and he
It
knows how
was
to teach people not to get AIDS. And everyone, and I do mean everyone, just based on the like absolute flabbergasted looks on the other commentators, were just like, we weren't expecting any of this.
No, it was like a manifesto. Like it was getting it to the point where I was like, I'm
100%.
freaked out now. And like McMahon, I feel like tried to bring it back to wrestling a few times. He was like, "Oh, and in the buckle," and then it like the camera would like flash to it, and then what's his name would just start screaming again about abstinence,
Something.
and we were just like, "What?
I was
What?"
like, I
I didn't
don't.
even watch the match at all because I was so like, I was like, "What?"
How could you? It was impossible. Like,
It
because
was so
even
weird.
while I like the camera was like panned like into the ring, what the commentary was so distracting that like I like blatantly stopped paying attention like while it was happening. And then
Yeah.
he just like gets up in a huff and like just like leaves. And then I remember like out loud just being like, and now to the actively like occurring match like that's been
And then it
going
was
on for
over.
5 minutes, and then it was over, and then I was just like, oh, okay. I feel like we all like witnessed like a supernatural event like at the same time, where we're all just like,
Yeah.
did you cat did no what no.
Did anyone catch it?
I was
No.
like, is he for okay, he's for
Oh.
real. And it's just like sometimes you just don't need to give people a microphone, you know. Like
Yo, honestly, truer words. See,
I,
sometimes don't do it.
I
Just
literally,
say no.
as we purchased microphones and gave ourselves
Us and our God complex. Don't give people mics. It's really just say no.
so that was an absolute mess of a match. But
Oh my God, so
it
messy.
cuts to in the middle of that, because for some reason we're still doing in the middle interviews and promos in the middle of
Too
matches.
much.
um we cut to Gorilla Monsoon, who informs us that as of now the Intercontinental title is vacant. So what's going to happen now is they're going to start a single elimination tournament on next week on Raw. So after the pay-per-view, they're going to start a tournament to decide who's going to be the new champion, because Ahmed's injuries are so extensive and that's going to take so much time to heal that he's not going to be able to like defend it. So
It really bums me out. I'm not
it
gonna
does bum me out because he
lie.
was
I'm
on
really
like
sad.
because he was on a roll. Like he was doing really well. Like he had just won, like he was already the Intercontinental champion and had won a spot to contend for the world championship. So he was doing really well, and he main evented the last pay-per-view. So like all of that momentum just kind of comes to like a screeching halt, which is probably all the more like disappointing because like he
Yeah.
was like really about to ascend into like becoming like a main eventer, and he just, life happens, you get injured.
Yeah.
So
And I really wanted to see him and Shawn Michaels fight because I was like, that's like because when he said and when he won, he was like, it's gonna be hard if I have to fight Shawn Michaels because like, we're like basically brothers. And I was like, God, I want to see that because like the drama would be so
mhm.
juicy. But like, and I do want to say it's crazy how fast like the WWF can pivot. Like
You
how they were like,
have
oh,
to.
which
Mm-hmm.
like week by week by week, it's just like, okay, like it's just so hard and fast. Like where it's like, all right, well, Ahmed Johnson's out for now because of this injury. So we have to like make decisions and we have to like, okay, now we're gonna start a tournament after the pay-per-view and we're gonna move these things around. Like it's just crazy how fast they pivot.
Right. And like it becomes even more like apparent when the show goes like live. They make a point of like going live. But essentially like once they switch to live TV, you really see like how quickly they have to like do things, because you're putting on a live show, a theater show in front of an audience, and then you also have to be able to broadcast that as it's happening on television. So things go wrong, people get hurt, like people don't make it to the show because of like travel complications,
Oh my
like
God.
all kinds of stuff can happen, but the show, the show must go on. Like that's just how it goes. It's
Wow.
showbiz, baby.
Wow.
So you really see how quickly they like have to adapt to things.
That's crazy.
And we got a an update from Bret Hart, which was your first time. You've only heard of Bret Hart. You haven't seen Bret Hart
Correct.
really. And it's just kind of more of the like, will he come back? Won't he? Will he? Won't he? Um, I
Hmm.
I think it's pretty safe to say that if they're sending a camera crew to follow him, he's probably coming back.
Especially on the cruise ship, like they are adrift in the sea. Like
Right.
they weren't just like, oh hey, it's Brett, and like saw him on the street. Like they were like, okay, well he's going on a cruise. Guess we're going to.
No, exactly. They were like, okay, so shortly he will be returning. I'm really excited for that. I love Bret Hart because he's so technically sound, and he's never been like the most charismatic or the best like speaker ever. That's never been his like strong suit. But in the ring, he's like up there as far as like you could put him against almost anybody and you'd be like,
Wow.
yeah, he holds up. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Mostly because I know what's coming and the kind of feuds with Shawn Michaels is gonna continue. So and that's the two of them together. Like they have like real life beef. They don't like at this point don't like each other very
They
much.
have real life beef.
Yeah, you'll see. Yeah, there's lots of reasons for the real life beef, but at the core, it is like Shawn Michaels is very like brash and arrogant and like that sort of stuff. Bret Hart kind of comes from like he's a little bit older. He has like a kind of an older mentality towards like wrestling, and he doesn't necessarily appreciate the way Shawn Michaels like approaches things. So they are like just kind of fundamentally kind of like different, and then it becomes like personal
Ooh,
going like down the line.
can't wait.
Their careers become pretty much irreconcilably like tangled with each other. Like they will forever be associated with each other for events coming up. So it'll be a great time when he comes back. And then we get to the main event, the showstopper, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart. And I love the two of them. Like I love each of them like on their own, but I love the two of them when they fight.
Mm.
Their back and forths are so smooth and so seamless. The first like 30 seconds of the match was just like the most graceful, like kind of dance that
Mm-hmm.
like you'll ever see ever. It's just
Yep.
they're just so good at what they do and they don't have to think about it at all. Like it is all just like instincts.
Yep.
And that's how you know it's like great. I wrote down this like sequence where Shawn Michaels, he calls it like skinning the cat,
Oh.
where he got tossed over the top rope and he holds on and he's like hanging from the outside.
Yes.
So he did that in, you know how I love the Royal Rumble.
Yes.
So he won, I don't remember if it was 1995 or 1996, but you know how in the Royal Rumble you get knocked out of the ring, both
Yep.
feet have to
Mm-hmm.
touch the floor.
Yep.
He basically the same thing happened to him. He was hanging from the rope like that, and only one foot touched the floor. Shawn Michaels is the reason the 2 feet touch the floor rule exists.
Wow. Amen.
So he did that and then flipped back into the ring. But this time, what he did is when he goes to like skin the cat, he grabs Owen Hart's head in a head scissors, pulls him over the top rope onto the floor, and then jumps back in the ring to deliver a tope, like over, just tossing his body over the top rope. And all of this is in like the span of like 30 seconds. So
Not
like just the
even.
sheer like athleticism, not 30 seconds is generous, but like
Yeah.
it just like the sheer athleticism to like pull that sequence of moves off is so good.
It was amazing. I wish that there was another because we saw it basically from the back, which was amazing. Like from
From
like
inside the ring.
yes, and like I wish we'd also seen it from the side because I was like
Mm-hmm.
that because we just saw which was also funny though because you just saw like Owen Hart like disappear over the rope and then like Shawn Michaels comes back and then throws himself off
Right.
just as like Owen Hart is getting up. So it was like it was kind of funny to see him like pop up and down, but I was like I wish we'd seen it from the side because that would have
Right.
been crazy. It was still crazy regardless. But I was like, I wanted to see that from every single angle. It was so amazing.
And like now when you watch wrestling, you see how many cameras they like
Yeah.
have. You really get the sense that this is like early days as far as like the production goes. Because you're not even getting like the like today when you watch like wrestling, when someone like goes in for like a punch, every time they go for like a punch, it's a camera change. It's a camera change. It's a camera change. So that you never actually
Oh.
see them not punch them in the face.
Oh, wow.
But like
Okay.
when you're watching it like now, they just simply don't have that many cameras and like don't have that kind of like ability to cut to cameras as quickly. So you can kind of see them kind of flub it or like, you know what I mean? Like you see
Yeah.
kind of more of the like the stunt kind of aspects of it, which
Yeah.
you don't get when you're getting like kind of these kind of like constant camera cuts and like stuff like that. So they really kind of like learned how to master that aspect of it as well. In this match, tons of reversals. It ends with
Crazy.
I know it's nuts. So Shawn Michaels delivers the flying elbow to Owen Hart, who's laying down, and he's getting ready to deliver the sweet chin music when we see Vader. First, I saw like 18 people in the crowd, like
Run.
run, and like I was like, like, because today when that happens, very different connotation. Like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
like,
Whoa. Swear. Oh my
so
God.
so I was like, oh no, what's going on? And then like we see Vader pop up onto the apron. Shawn Michaels delivers a drop kick to Vader, knocks him off the apron. He
Hmm.
delivers a super kick to Owen Hart. 1, 2, 3, wins the match.
Amazing.
And then we get, in typical Camp Cornette fashion, we get a numbers game. We have Vader distracting Shawn with a steel chair in hand,
Hmm.
while Cornette gives Owen Hart a tennis racket,
But let
the
us not
tennis
forget that
racket.
also Shawn Michaels ripped off Owen Hart's cast
Oh, he did.
to fight. I was like, oh, like he just pulled it right off. And he was like, all right,
I was
well,
like, I'm using this now, and
so
was like gonna
nuts.
defend himself with the cast.
Yeah.
And so yeah, where does the cast fall in
Wh-
that?
Because then I get, does he throw it? Because then
He catches the racket.
he catches the racket. Yes. Because
Mhm.
Owen Hart goes to hit him, but he gets, I don't know how
He
remember how he,
drops. I think he drops the cast, grabs the racket,
yes, but he
and then
catches
hits
the racket
Owen.
with the racket.
Hmm.
There, a lot happened
Oh,
in a very short amount of
I
time.
know. So Owen goes down and he's out, and then that's when Vader kind of enters and just uses his, just brute force. Absolutely takes out Shawn again and delivers what we assume is 3 Vader bombs. We saw 2 on television, but he was
One
going
in
up for
process.
he was like going up for the last one.
Off
Um,
the top rope, which I was
off
like,
the top
really?
rope.
We're gonna stop right now? We're not gonna see the off the top rope Vader bomb? Upsetting.
No, no. So again, this does a good job making Vader look menacing, making him look like super strong before their title match on Sunday of that week, whatever. And it puts Shawn Michaels like in a position where you're like, is he gonna lose the title? Like, is that what's gonna happen right
Mm,
now? So we're leading up to SummerSlam, so which is gonna be great.
I can't wait.
I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's probably one of the better pay-per-views. We have, Jake the Snake versus Jerry Lawler. We have Goldust versus Mark Miro. We were supposed to have Farouk and Ahmed Johnson, so we're not doing that anymore. The
Mm.
tag team titles are on the line in like a 4-way elimination match. We're gonna have the Boiler Room Brawl.
Okay, so right at the end of the Bret Hart possibly coming back promo, like he said, if I am gonna come back, just know I'm gonna have a shovel. And I was like, what does that mean?
Okay, so there's like a term in wrestling. It's called like burying. And
Oh,
that's basically like essentially what happens is when we talked about, do you remember the match with like the Ultimate Warrior and Owen Hart where we were
how
talking
could I
about like
ever forget?
Owen or how the Ultimate Warrior like wasn't selling any of the moves and like
Yes.
so what happens is like let's say it's like burying is like when someone who's in like a higher position like on the card, like someone who's like a main eventer or like someone who's like in that spot, basically burying means like you don't allow or you don't let like younger talent or people that like are coming up, whatever, like look good. Or
Oh.
like or like you don't do like business, basically. You like make them like you kind of squash their momentum for the sake of like your own. So basically my take on like I'm bringing back a shovel is like I'm coming back to bury like these people because he feels like he was wronged in the way that the Shawn Michaels won the title. So when
Wow.
he comes back, like he's coming back to be on top. Like he's not coming back to like wiggle his way like through the roster. Like he's coming back and he's gonna come back to make sure that his name is at the top of the marquee.
Wow.
You know
I
what I mean?
hope like
It's
just for aesthetic he actually brings a shovel. Like when he
I
comes back he's
know.
like actually carrying one. I feel like
Mhm.
I need to see that.
Honestly, he probably forgot he
Wow.
said it after he said it.
Okay. I guess I'm not seeing a shovel.
Nothing. Do you have
The
any? Did
the
I
only
miss
other
any?
thing I was gonna say was the promo for the
Oh,
bikini beach blast off.
let's talk about that. Okay.
Um, so the
All right.
promo, so there was this amazing promo for the Boiler Room Brawl that was shortly followed by the most uncomfortable promo for let me make sure I say this correctly, the Bikini Beach blast off. And
Uh
it was just Sunny behind like one of those screens with like the backlight, so it's just her like vignette, like her naked
right.
vignette, and she's just trying on bikinis,
Right. And
talking about
she's
like,
like,
I'm gonna look best in the gold. Like, what do you think, Jerry? Will I be like the queen of the Bikini Beach blast off? It was so,
and then she speaks to the king like specifically
yeah,
and she's
yeah.
like what do you say, king? And like king's like in like the background just like she can sit on my throne with me, and I was like,
Oh
oh
my
my
god.
god, like
I
I
can
was
hear the drool like dripping out of his
no
mouth. It was
100%
so
like
weird.
a cartoon. Like I if he might as well have just like not said any other words besides like auga and just like like and like
Swear.
it would have been the exact same sentiment because like
100%.
that man's IQ in the presence of a woman just plummets, just absolute like just takes a nosedive, and you're just
Yeah.
like you are this like quick-witted like color commentator, and then
Yes.
the second a female like enters the screen, or even doesn't even have to enter the screen, is discussed,
I
you
swear. Mentioned.
you
Like just
cannot
nothing.
handle it. Like you like Who Framed Roger Rabbit eyes roll in your
Yes,
head.
like, and you like roll up that, like their jaw drops and you like roll it up like a curtain and it's like,
Right, it's like blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Get a grip, sir.
So odd that like that 30 seconds of television like was just like on a regular like cable like show.
So
Isn't that so
weird.
weird? Like,
So weird. Cause like talk about like things you definitely could not get away with today.
oh, 100%.
No shot.
And like again, think about who they're marketing to.
Right.
It's
It worked, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Like, so they leaned into it hard. They really did.
They really, really did.
All right, guys, that has been this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. We are going to live stream the SummerSlam pay-per-view. If you missed the actual live stream, you can just rewatch it on the site itself. I'll make sure that all of the links and stuff to get to there are wherever you find this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And next week, we will catch you with the follow-up episode of Monday Night Raw, which is really just going to be kind of a tea spilling sesh of what happened at SummerSlam.
It's my favorite time.
Exactly. So thank you for joining me, Kelsey. And
Anytime.
we will see you all next week.
Yeah, and we'll see you on the live stream. Come hang out with us.
Bye.
Bye.